Euphoria Season 3, Episode 6 has a serious problem. And it is not that nothing happened. A lot happened. Rue stared down death again. Cassie kept spiraling into performance and validation. Nate got humiliated all over again. Jules kept drifting. And yet, a lot of people finished this episode feeling almost nothing. That is the real issue. Hey, what's up everyone? Come back to Breakdown. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Today we are breaking down Euphoria Season 3, Episode 6, and why this episode feels so hollow for so many people. Because in my opinion, the biggest problem with this season is no longer the darkness, the chaos, or even the shock value. The real problem is that some of these characters no longer feel emotionally alive the way they used to. The show is still giving us spectacle, but it is not always giving us strong emotional direction underneath it. And Episode 6 may be the clearest example of that. Let's start with the biggest one, Jules, because I honestly think she is the best example of what this season is losing. Back in Season 1, Jules felt active. You understood her curiosity, her fear, her fantasies, her contradictions.
Even when she made choices people disagreed with, those choices still felt emotionally grounded. She felt like a person becoming herself in real time. Now, ask the simplest question possible. What does Jules actually want right now? Not vaguely, not symbolically, not in a she wants stability kind of way. Specifically, why is she with this older man? Why is she living this life? Why is she choosing comfort over art? Why does she keep drifting towards situations that feel emotionally empty? And the problem is, the show does not give us a strong enough answer. We get surface-level explanations. Money, housing, security. Fine. But those are practical motives, not emotional engines. We still do not fully understand what wound is pushing her, what future she imagines, what failure she fears. And once you lose that, the character starts feeling less like a person making choices and more like someone being moved around by the story.
That is exactly what Jules feels like now. And that is why the scenes with her can feel frustrating instead of tragic. The show keeps hinting at depth, art, longing, intimacy, boredom, frustration, but it does not lock those things into one clear emotional line. So instead of feeling pulled into her interior world, we end up standing outside it. Now, once you notice that, you start seeing the same issue in other characters too. Take Nate. At this point, Nate still matters to the plot, but emotionally he is getting flatter. We know he wants power, we know he wants control, we know he hates looking weak, but the show is no longer digging into those motivations the way it used to. It keeps putting him into dramatic situations, but it is not always giving those situations inner depth. Even the attacks on him are starting to feel more like a recurring punishment device than real emotional development. And yes, those moments are memorable, they are shocking, sometimes even darkly funny, but memorable is not the same thing as meaningful. The earlier seasons made Nate frightening because he felt psychologically specific. Now he often just feels like a chaos generator attached to Cassie's collapse. Now to be fair, Cassie still works much better than some of the others. And the reason is simple. We know exactly what she wants. Cassie wants attention. She wants validation. She wants to be seen, desired, chosen, elevated. She is not chasing love in the pure sense. She is chasing proof that she matters. And because that desire is so clear, even her most reckless scenes still make emotional sense. That is why her storyline survives the chaos better than most. Every bad choice grows from the same hunger. Fame, online attention, acting, sexual validation, reinvention, all of it is feeding the same emotional wound. She wants an audience because an audience feels like certainty. It tells her she exists. That is compelling. The problem is that the show sometimes throws so much noise around her that it weakens the impact. Mob threats, contracts, Nate, Maddie, Lexi, public humiliation, performance, social media, all of it is interesting, but the emotional consequences do not always get enough room to breathe. The show keeps moving, and sometimes it moves too fast for the hurt to fully land. Now, Rue is where Episode 6 gets closest to really working, because unlike Jules, we actually know what Rue wants.
She wants redemption.
She wants a second chance. She wants to believe she is still capable of becoming someone better than the life that keeps pulling her backward. And Zendaya carries that beautifully. She gives Rue a spiritual exhaustion that makes the church scene, the phone call with her mother, and even the burning tree imagery feel emotionally real. But even here, I think the episode slightly misses something. It tells us what redemption means to Rue, but it does not always make us live inside the desperation of earning it. There is a difference between hearing a character talk about hope and watching them break themselves trying to reach it. Episode 6 gets close, very close, but at times it still feels like the show is leaning on symbolism instead of fully earning the emotional collapse underneath it. That is why the ending feels eerie more than cathartic. And maybe that is intentional. Euphoria is not a healing fantasy. It is a tragedy dressed in neon, so I'm not expecting Rue to get peace. But I do think the show is more successful with her, because her emotional direction is still clear.
Now, here is the twist. The strongest character writing in the whole episode might belong to Alamo. And I know that is not going to be everyone's favorite take, but hear me out. The flashback does not excuse him. It explains him. That is a huge difference. We understand the emotional logic that shaped him. We understand why he sees trust as a setup. We understand how betrayal became his worldview. That does not make him sympathetic in a soft way, but it does make him coherent. He feels built from the inside. And weirdly, that kind of clarity is exactly what some of the main characters are missing right now. That is why his scenes stand out. Not because he is morally better, obviously not, but because the writing around him actually connects the past to the present in a way that feels psychologically complete. And that brings me to the real issue with episode 6. The show still knows how to create chaos. It still knows how to create memorable moments. It still knows how to create visuals and tension. But tension is not the same thing as emotional attachment, and spectacle is not the same thing as character identity. That is why so many people finish this episode feeling empty. Not because nothing happened, but because too many scenes now feel built to shock or disturb before they feel built to deepen who these people are. And honestly, I think that is what a lot of viewers are grieving this season more than anything else. Not just the plot. The loss of intimacy with the characters, especially Jules. She does not feel bad in a dramatic sense. She feels distant, like someone the show used to understand and now only half remembers. And that is a much sadder problem than one weak scene or one weird subplot. It affects the emotional foundation of the whole season. So, no, I do not think Season 3 is a disaster. There are still strong performances. There are still scenes that hit. There are still ideas here worth talking about. But Episode 6 made one thing very clear to me. If the final episodes do not reconnect these characters to sharper emotional wants and real consequences, then Euphoria will keep getting louder while feeling emptier. And that is a much bigger problem than chaos. But anyway, that is my breakdown of Euphoria Season 3, Episode 6, and why I think the real issue right now is not the darkness of the season. It's the loss of character identity underneath it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments who was your favorite character in Season 1, and who is your favorite now. I'll catch you in the next one.